say green light go. In this case, it's red light go. How's everybody feeling, even though you're all muted? But seriously, though, in times like these, one quote comes to mind: change or die. Change or die. And that may seem a little dark for the times that we're in. And the reason why that quote comes to mind is because when it comes to leader shifting in this time, in this pandemic, is that we have to make a shift. Kind of like with the one I mentioned earlier in Inspirational Moment, it's going to be full alignment for the next 5 to 7 minutes of this presentation, because leader shifting is something that we all need to do. And it's also a great book by the author himself, John C. Maxwell, leadership guru and expert who's been around for 40 plus years with over 100 books published. And it's one of the best books I've ever read, because he shares some great stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you. Now, for those who may be wondering, what is leader shift? Leader shifting is where you have the willingness to make a positive change, a positive leadership change that will positively enhance organizational and personal growth. And in times like these, where change is forced upon you, you have to be able to pivot and adapt to the times that we are in now. I never thought wearing a mask could be fashionable. I was taught that if you wear a mask outside, you might as well hope to God that you come back alive, especially with the hood on. But times have changed because we have to protect ourselves. And not only protect ourselves, we have to also grow ourselves. And that's going to be the first shift. The first shift is the personal development shift. The personal development shift. And this is where you shift from just having goals to growth. Now, when you have goals, it's a great thing. If you don't have goals, well, we can get to that part. But when you have goals, it's better to see how you can grow from them. There's a question that is very powerful that everyone should ask themselves at least once in their lifetime, if not multiple times. Instead of asking yourself, how long will this take? Ask yourself, how far can I go? And that question is something that every Toastmaster should ask themselves, because when I joined Toastmasters back in 2013 actually, I realized that there was more for me. And it's one of the few organizations left in this world where the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. And I never expected to get as much out of it as I have gotten and still get from the organization today, because I've gained lifelong friendships. Folks have told me that I was a mentor for them, and I didn't even see that one coming. I was just showing up and trying to get better and helping people along the way. And one of the main keys to that is asking myself that question and taking the action to make it happen was, how far can I go? Ask yourself, how far can you go in Toastmasters? Because we have a select few in the Zoom room tonight that have decided to set aside some time from Netflix, Amazon Prime, the refrigerator, and other distractions to work on your personal growth. Because you're asking yourself, how far can I go, as opposed to how long this will take. And not only shifting into the personal development shift and asking yourself how far you can go, but also making that relational shift. That relational shift. Shift number 2. It's where you go from pleasing people to challenging people. When you make the decision to challenge people as opposed to pleasing people, it's going to, at first, stir the pot a bit, because a lot of folks, we like to be lazy, me included. I'm speaking from experience here. One time I was at the workshop getting my certification last summer, and I have this habit sometimes of holding myself back. It's kind of like this whole mythology story about this warrior who was so powerful that every time he would swing his sword, the earth would shake. And because of that, he put himself in a suit of armor that held his power back. And I, too, feel like that warrior sometimes, and it comes out. And a couple of folks, I was sitting at a table, we were getting lunch after a part of the workshop. And at the beginning of the seminar, we were told that, hey, you're supposed to stand up and talk about yourself for 5 minutes. Well, instead of doing the traditional world championship level 5 to 7 minute speech I learned from Toastmasters, I did a table topic of 90 seconds. And the folks at my table, they were like, okay, that's good, that's cool. But when I sat a couple days later, still at that seminar for the weekend, when I told some other folks, they were like, hey, buddy, Why did you leave them with only 90 seconds? If you're here to learn and grow and you're given 5 minutes, take advantage of all of them 5 minutes. And they challenged me to redo the speech in front of them. And I gave it to them. I delivered it to them. The sword made the earth shake that day. It was shook. The earth was shook that day, and they all gave me a sitting ovation because they're still eating. So, my friends, is there a moment in your life where you feel like you're holding yourself back, that you need to make that shift from pleasing people to challenging people? Especially if people pleasing is a bad habit. I know I have that habit naturally, and I'm working on it. And it's easier to get along with people. But if you want to help people to grow, you have to make that shift from, you know what? It's great to make them feel good. Give them the sugar, give them the rainbows, and they'll have that unicorn horn on their head. But if they really want to have 3 unicorns on their heads, metaphorically speaking, then why don't I challenge them to be greater than what they can be? Because especially as a mentor, if you see people where they are and where they can be, as opposed to where they can see themselves. Because if you lift that lid and the fall comes out and they explode in growth, it'll be one of the greatest gifts to you because they took your advice and they accepted your challenge for greater. Now for shift number 3, and that will be the improvement shift. This is where you move from team uniformity to team diversity. Where you move from team uniformity to team diversity, the improvement shift. And this shift is very important because it's great to be around folks who are like-minded, but it's better that you're around folks who share your code of ethics but think a little differently. Because those who think differently challenge you to also think differently and to consider your options as opposed to being in a room full of, yes, agreeable men and women. I myself, I ascribe to being a Christian, and some of my closest friends, they are not Christian. And it's one of the greatest things I can do for myself because it helps me to get deeper within my own faith and realize, okay, let me see what their argument is and see if it matches up and see if it's one of them folks who like to spout off a bunch of nonsense they heard on YouTube or Google or saw on the social media page. And then if they get mad when you ask them where they found information, tell you go do your research. Well, it's better to be around those who actually explain where they got their source material from and why they think that way. So that way you can learn more about how other people think. So my friends, as I close out of this presentation, just want to give you a quick reminder. There are 3 shifts that you must make to have fearless growth and change in your life. That is the personal development shift, the relational shift, and the improvement shift. Madam Toastmaster.